Right? Okay. So the water potential is that denoted by the Greek word, that is the phi, or that symbol is there, that phi symbol, and is expressed in the pressure units such as Pascal. Uh, by the convention of water potential of pure water at standard temperature. So here we are to know the solute potential and pressure potential. Here two views we can see. So what is the solute potential? In solute is dissolved in pure water. The solution has favor free water molecule and the concentration of water decreases, reducing its water potential. So all the solutions have the low water potential than the pure water. Already discussed that one. The pure water is the highest water potential. So here that the more the solute molecule and lower that is the negative energy for the solution at atmospheric pressure. Here that is the pi S means solute potential. Next one, here we can see that water potential is also. So I share in the here group. See here. So this one. Okay. So here this is so pressure potential. The pressure can build up in a plant system when water enter into a plant that we call as a diffusion. That means with the pressure. So in that pressure, water can enter into the plant system with the diffusion method, the causing the pressure to build up against the cell wall. This makes the cell turgid. See here that it is usually the positive through in the plant negative potential or tension in the water column in the xylem plays a major role in the water transport to the system, means stem system. So pressure potential that we call denote the pi p. So water potential of cell is affected by the both solute and pressure potential. So here water potential is equal to so solute potential plus pressure potential means that is the pi w is equal to pi s plus pi p means solute potential plus pressure potential. So next coming to the what is osmosis. So what is osmosis? Here the movement of water potential through a accompanying angle membrane is called as a osmosis. Semi-permeable can allow the solvents but not solutes. That is the process is called as osmosis. So osmosis is some important that is the facilities observe the water. A cell-to-cell movement of water is also affected by osmosis. It improves the resistant power to the water, stress, and show. It controls the opening and closing of stomata, and this tooths and sporangia by the osmosis only. Dehiscence means dehiscence of sporangias also with the help of these osmosis. So water move from the region high chemical potential for the concentration to its region of low chemical potential. So which is the high to low, they are the equilibrium is reached. So the external pressure can be applied from the upper part of the funnel such as to no water diffuses into the funnel through the membrane. This pressure is required to prevent the water from diffusing. Um, See here, this diagram can shows. So we can see these osmotic potential means say here. So osmosis, we can explain these diagram. So the osmotic pressure and is the function of the solute concentration. The more solute concentration, the greater will be pressure required to prevent the water from diffusing. Numerically, osmotic pressure is the equivalent to the osmotic pressure is equivalent to the osmotic potential, but the sign is opposite. So osmotic pressure is the positive pressure applied, while osmotic potential is the negative. This is the osmosis means high concentration to low concentration. So coming to the plasmolysis. So plasmolysis means when the cell is keep into the high gradient. See here I show to the diagram also. See here, this is the plasmolysis process. So in the plasmolysis, the behavior of the plant cell for tissues with the regard to water movement depending on the surrounding solution. If the external solution balances the osmotic pressure of the cytoplasm, it is said to be the isotonic. If the external solution is more dilute than the cytoplasm, it is the hypotonic, and if the external solution is more concentrated, it is the hypertonic cell will in the hypertonic solution and sink in the hypertonic ones. So plasmolysis occur when the water move out the cell wall and the cell membrane of plant cells will be synchronized. This occur when the cell of tissues is placed in the solution of hypertonic, means more solutes are. The water move out. It is the first lost from the cytoplasm, then form the vacuoles. The water when drawn out the cell through the diffusion into the extracellular fluid cause the protoplasm to sinking of protoplast. so leading to the separation of this plasma membrane or plasma from the cell wall. This is called as a incipient plasmolysis. When the cell is left into the hypertonic solution is for more time, the plasma protoplasm completely sinks, wherein the cell is lead to the plasmolyzed. So the movement of the water occur across the membrane is said to be plasmolyzed. The movement of water occur across the membrane said to be plasmolyzed. The movement of water occur across the membrane, that one we call as a plasmolyzed. The movement of water uh, from area means high concentration, high potential to low potential. So thus the normal living cells will with the hypertonic solution became the fluids. Such cells is pressure potential became zero. Hence the water potential becomes equal to the solid potential. See here that diagram here turgid cell and incipient plasmolysis. So in the diagram see the picture is see here plasmolyzed means completely plasmolyzed cells. When the cells of tissues placed in the isotonic solution, there is no net flow of water toward the inside or either outside. Isotonic means equilibrium solid. The external solution balances that is the osmotic pressure of the cytoplasm. Hence, it is said to be in the isotonic condition, and such both are in the state of equilibrium. The net movement of water is zero. The process of plasmolysis is usually irreversible. Reversible action is there. When the cell is placed in the hypotonic solution, highly water potential or dilute solution compared to the cytoplasm, the water diffuses into the cell cause the cytoplasm to build up and pressure against the cell. This is called as the turgor pressure. So the pressure is exerted by the protoplasm due to the entry of water against the rigid cells is called as the pressure potential. So because the rigidity of cell wall, the cell does not rupture, means that cell wall is very rigid character is there. So that's why there is no uh, cannot be a rupture. So next phenomena is the imbibition. So imbibition is a type of diffusion when the water is absorbed by the solids, collides, causing them to enormously increase in the value. That one we call as a imbibition. So another aspect. So classical example of imbibition is absorption of water by the seeds and dry wood. This one means any solid contents. The pressure that is produced by the swelling of wood as used the prehistoric man to split rocks and um, boulders. It is the view where the rate of pressure due to the imbibition seedlings would not be able to emerge out the soil into the open. They are probably would not have these able to establish. So different types of organic substances have different imbibition capacities. Proteins have very high imbibition capacities compared to the carbohydrates. So imbibition is the type of diffusion since water movement is along the concentration of gradient. The seeds and such material have almost no water, hence they absorb the water easily. The water potential gradient between the absorbent and the liquid ambient is essential for the imbibition. In addition, for many substances to imbue in a liquid, affinity between the absorbent and liquid is also prerequisite. So, imbibition is also one type of the diffusion method to observe the water by the solids. So, here colloids also there. That is. So, next one is the next topic is the absorption of water through the simplest and upperplast methods are there. Here two methods are there. That is, see here, I can show here. Uh, this simplest and upperplast methods. So see here, this is the simplest and upperplast concept is there. So we know that the root absorb most of the water that goes into the plants. Obviously, that is the why we pour water on the soil and not on the leaves. The responsibility of observing the water and minerals is more specifically functions of the root hairs that are the pressure into millions at the tips of the roots. The root hairs that is very thin walled slender extension of the root epidermal cells that greatly increase the surface area of absorption. So, so water is absorbed along the mineral solutes by the root hairs purely by the diffusion. Once water is absorbed by the root hair, it can move deeper into the once layer by the two distinct pathway, that the simplan pathway and apoplast pathway. So here two ways only, two pathways only. The water is absorbed or passage from roots to stem and leaves. So apoplast, that is the apoplast, is a system of adjacent cell walls that is continuous throughout the plants, except the Casparian trips of endodermis in the roots. Apoplastic movement of water occurs exclusively through the intercellular space and the while the cell wall. Movement through the apoplast does not invoice crossing the cell membrane. This movement is depending on the gradient. Uh, the apoplast does not provide any barrier to the water movement, and water movement is through the masses flow. A water evaporates into the intracellular space or the atmosphere. The tension develops into the continuous stream of water in the apoplast. Hence, mass flow of water occur due to the adhesive and cohesive properties of water. Simplistic pathway here, that is the interconnection protoplast, neighboring cells and connected through the cytoplasmic strand that extend through the plasma desmata. So during the symplastic movement, water travels through the cells. Their cytoplasm intracellular movement is through the hence the movement is relatively slow. The movement is again down a potential gradient. There is a symplastic movement may be aided by the cytoplasmic streaming. You may have observed the cytoplasmic streaming in the cells of hydrilla. So, yeah, most of the water flow in the roots occur via the upper plant since the cortical cell are loosely packed ends they offer no resistance of water movement. In the inner boundary of the cortex, endodermis interprevious of water because the band of subscribes the matrix that one we call as a Casparian trips. So this water can move through the symplast and against cross a membrane to reach the cells of xylem. The movement of water through the root layer is ultimately symplastic in the endodermis. This is the only way water and other solutes can enter the vascular cylinder. Once inside the xylem, water is again free to move between cells. In young roots, water enters directly into the xylem, vessels, and tracheids. These are the non-living conduit are part of the apoplast. The path of the water and mineral ions into the root vascular system is summarized here in the figure. We can see this figure. So some plants have additional structure that is associated with them the help in the water. As a mycorrhiza is the symbiotic association of the fungus with the root system. The fungal with the root system, uh, that is the fungal filament either form a network around a young root or penetrate in the root cells. The fungus provide mineral and water to the roots. In terms, the root provide sugars and that is the mycorrhiza. Some plants have the obligate associated with the mycorrhizae. Some the uh, here the movement of water from region is positive pressure to the region of negative pressure. So next one is the ascent of sap, soil, atmosphere, and plant. So this one is the very important ascent of the sap here. This one also. So ascent of sap here. The various ions from the soil are actually transported to the vascular tissues of the roots. So here the water flows its potential gradient and increase the pressure of roots. Water uh, flows is the potential gradient and increase the pressure inside the xylem. The positive pressure is called as a root pressure and it is inside the xylem. This positive pressure is called the root pressure. So here and the effect of root pressure also observed at the night and early morning when the evaporation is low and excess water collect in the from droplets around the special opening vein near the hubs of the grass blades and leaves of many herbaceous plants. So such loss is liquid phase known as a guttation. Only this root pressure only 2 shows the guttation. Means root pressure can at the best is only provide the modest to push into the overall process of water transport. So it is obviously does not play in the major role water movement in all trees such as the gymnosperms, sequoia semipervensis, that is the tallest tree. So greatest contribution of root pressure may also re-establish the continuous chain of water molecule in the xylem, which often break under the enormous tension created by the transpiration. Root pressure does not occur the majority of the water transport. Most plants made their need by the transpiratory pull. These two, transpiratory pull system and root pressure, these both are to involved in the water movement. So next one is the transpiration. So here plants hardly about 2% of total water absorbed from the soil and their metabolism. Remaining 98% they lost the atmosphere by the process of transpiration. So transpiration is defined as the loss of water in the form of vapor through the aerial part such as leaves of the plants. So the loss of water through the transpiration is quite enormous as can be judged by the single maize plant transpiring around the 20 liters during their lifespan. So this is the approximately 10 times of its weight of the plant. 200 liters transpiring entire their lifespan of maize. The upward movement of water against gravitational force from the root to the top of the plants is called as ascent of sap. So many experts on water relation have calculated that the pressure different of the 3 million pascal is needed from the base at the top to carry water upwards in all tall trees. For some times where the doubt that pressure is different may arise because the tree developing positive pressure, it is the based on the negative pressure at its tip. So here we can see the cohesion theory. So cohesion theory is that is the hypothesis is proposed by the Dixon in 1914. So cohesion theory to explain the water is pulled toward the tension in xylem vessels that is created by the evaporation of water from the leaves. The water loss through the stomata from different cells in the all the leaves of communicate effect action and the united driving force for a negative hydrostatic pressure in the xylem, which is the draw of the water molecule as a continuous column as if the rod due to the very strong cohesion forces between the water molecule. If the tensions are larger than 1 bar, the xylem is the negative. So water flows is driven by the difference in the free energy of water in the soil and dry air. So maintaining of water column, the main controversy surrounding the question of where the water column in xylem can sustain such as a larger tension necessity pull to the water. So here Zimmerman and other Martin Kenny, these are the explain the water column. Hmm. So here, the xylem by chamber is pressure bomb technique. So it has observed the water potential near the bottom of the tree is less negative than the water potential at the top. Such pressures drop between the bottom and the top is continued with the tension resulting the forces organizing the at the top of the trees. Now the second question is the maintain integrity of water column. The ability is a resistance break in the function of tensile strength of the water column. The tensile strength is expressed as a force per unit area and our area is cross section of the water column. The tensile strength of water will also depend on the diameter of xylem vessels, the properties of xylem wall, and presence of any discoverable gases or solutes. As the tension in the water increase in their increased tendency for air to the pollute through the microscopic pores in the xylem cell walls. So this type of phenomenon known as air seeding. So once a bubble is formed with the water column under the tension, it will expand. So this phenomenon is bubble formation is known as a cavitation or embolism. So in the water column, there occurred a gas bubble, means air bubble is formed. That one we call as embolism or cavitation. Okay, so that is also there. So when the water evaporates from the cell surface to intercellular airspace, diffusion in the primary means for the movement of water outside of the leaf. The leaf surface is covered by an effective water barrier is called as cuticle. It has been estimated only 5% of water loss from the leaves escape through the cuticle. So next one, here we discuss the uh, stomata structure. So stomata structure we can see here. Here monocots and dicotyledon stomata. Here different structures are there. Okay. So here structure of stomata. So most of the lost from typical leaves is lost by the diffusion of water vapor through the tiny pores present in the epidermis. So these pores are commonly called as a stomata. The pore surrounded by the two guard cells that is known as the stomata. The guard cells specialized epidermal cells and adjacent each guard cells usually one to several other modified epidermal cells are there, that is the subsidiary cells or accessory cells are there. The stomata together the guard cells and subsidiary cells known as the stomatal complex or stomatal aperture. See here, this is the guard cells are there, kidney shaped type of cells here. Guard cells are present and remaining subsidiary cells also there. So here the stomata together with the guard cells and subsidiary cells, the total complex we have a stomatal complex. In the dicot guard cells, which is the kidney shaped, this is kidney shaped guard cells are present in the dicots, whereas the monocots here dumbbell shaped guard cells are present. The guard cells contain few chloroplasts also. So these chloroplasts play a significant role in the opening and closing of stomata. The cell wall of guard cells is thicker towards the stomata pore, where it is thinner on the other side. Okay, this is the stomata present. All right. So in the today lesson here, the water plant relation. There is the very important one. Here we can summarize the water plant relation again. We have to discuss. The water is the most abundant and important component of environment. It is essential for the survival of organisms. The water content is plant will vary according to cell types and tissues, and to some extent it is depends on the environmental and physiological conditions. Generally, the amount of water in plants ranges from 70 to 95%. So almost all the physiological and biochemical activities need water. The water also has excellent solvent properties and also suitable medium for the uptake distribution of minerals and other substances for the growth and development of the plants. Water is essential for all the physiological activity of the plant and plays a very important role in the living organisms. So it is provided the medium in which the most substances are dissolved. The protoplasm of cells is nothing but the water is a different molecule are dissolved and several uh, particles are sustained. So when the watermelon contains around the 92% of water, most of the herbaceous plants have only 10 to 15% their fresh weight as a dry matter. So if the distribution of water with the plants varies, woody pots have relatively very little water, while the soft pots mostly contain water. Here, around the 80 to 90% of plants they have the water comprises around their total weight. Okay, so this one is the here we discuss water